And there we go. We are live. So welcome to another session going through the developer resources for TADHack on the 13th and 14th of June. Just go to tadhack.com to see all the locations we have around the world. And of course, we accept remote entries as well. We're very fortunate today to have Peter Dunkley, who will be presenting on Forge by Acision. So Peter, it's over to you.
Hello. So it's great to be on this webinar, and just in a second I'll switch over to some slides and I'll take you through a little bit about Acision and then a bit more detail about what Forge is. So hopefully this will be interesting, and it'll encourage you to actually use Forge for your hacks during TADHack. Okay, Alan, can you confirm, has that come up okay?
Yes, it's up there.
Excellent. Great. So this is just going to basically be an introduction to Forge by Acision. So just to give you a bit of my background, I'm Peter Dunkley, and I'm a technical director at Acision, and the job that I'm really performing here is I'm their WebRTC evangelist. I've also been a contributor to a number of WebRTC related open source projects, things like Kama-Elio, where I put in the SIP over WebSocket implementation, and also where I did some authentication modules to help with WebRTC. I also did some contribution to the RFC 5766 turn server project that used to be hosted on Google Code. It may well have moved. So that's kind of what that's my background, and that's why I'm the one talking to you today. So just a little bit about Acision, because in many ways, although Acision's quite a large company with a long history, a lot of people haven't heard of us, and that's because our traditional customer base are network operators. In fact, specifically the infrastructure group within there. We've a more than 20-year history. If you've worked in telecoms for a while, you probably heard of Logica CMG. Well, Acision was a sort of leveraged buyout, management buyout from Logica CMG of the messaging part of the business. And we are still the #1 messaging provider in the world, routing more than 2 trillion messages a year within mobile networks. And we have a global presence and reach, 24/7 support. We are a large company, and we're just now moving into doing things for developers and working in WebRTC specifically. So we've got this history of more than 2 decades, which includes the formation of the original company that was at the start of this whole chain, through to the first commercial SMSC deployment. So the first sort of commercial deployment of messaging in the world, mobile messaging in the world, was done by, I suppose, the ancestor of Acision. And this is a history of evolution, of the evolution of the company, and in sort of 2014, in late 2013, 2014, Acision acquired the IPR from Crocodile RCS, which was the company I worked for, and that was where I worked when we did a lot of WebRTC developments, and that was then turned into the Forge by Acision platform, which is a platform that combines WebRTC with a load of other communications techniques and technologies, and makes that available to developers through APIs. And in the last sort of year, we've won Best in Show at the WebRTC conference and expo, and just last week we actually won Best Wow Factor at that conference. Last week it was a demo, which was a sort of Internet of Things medical demo, where we were using a medical device with Forge. There'll be a video of that on YouTube for anyone who's interested, and it just as an example of the kind of things you can do with Forge. So a key area of Acision today is this enabling richer communications. So not just something that's provided by the carrier, but something that's in your apps, that's in your websites. And this is voice calls, video calls, presence messaging, the whole lot. And that's really where Forge by Acision comes in. So, everyone here knows about WebRTC. You've got the RTC web part, which is the stack. You've got WebRTC, which is the browser API. Well, what we've done with Forge by Acision is we are available in the browser, of course, but we've also taken that RTC web stack, specifically the Google Media Engine, and we've built that into our native libraries for iOS and Android. So that means with Forge by Acision, you can write apps that interoperate with each other on iOS, Android, and the web. And one of the things we bring there, of course, is that on the iOS and Android side of it, the Google Media Engine can sometimes be a bit complicated to use. We basically provide that pre-compiled, pre-tested version that we know to be stable, and we'll provide support for that, and have also combined it with the other parts of Forge to give you that value add. And so actually, WebRTC is just one part of Forge. Forge is a messaging and IP chat platform. We support IP messaging, which could be person-to-person messaging. It could also be messaging where you send JSON objects as control signals. This messaging can be immediate delivery, or it can be messaging that's designed to be stored, so that if you're sending a message to someone who's not online, they'll get it when they come online. This messaging can even fall back to SMS. All of that's available in Forge messaging, and we have file transfer in there as well. We have presence capability, and that's a fully extensible presence implementation, which means we don't have any predefined fields. You can basically publish your presentity with any field that you want. So you can use that in the traditional way for presence, to say I'm online, I'm offline, I'm in a good mood, I'm in a bad mood. Or you could use it to say, here is my public key, so you can encrypt messages to send to me. Anything that you want to publish, subscribe, have people get notifications of, you can put that into our presence system. And the presence system operates in two ways. It works in traditional push presence, where you will get notifications when somebody updates things, but it also works in pulled mode. So if you've got a mobile application that you don't want to stay connected all the time, you can connect to our presence server and request the information you require when you need it. Talking about pushing things, I forgot to mention, in our IP messaging, we also have support for push notifications. iOS and Android push notifications are there too. And finally, we support WebRTC. With WebRTC, we can do audio calling, video calling, and one of the things that WebRTC doesn't give you is it doesn't give you any signaling, it doesn't give you any capability to discover the other device and do that handshaking you need to set up the call. So we've built that into Forge as well. And part of Forge is also the ability to use push notifications to start your calls. So what does that mean? It means if you're on iOS 8, we support PushKit. And what that means is that you can have a communicator app where you are connected to receive calls, but you don't have to actually maintain those connections in the background. You don't have to have your app running in the background, and therefore you're not draining your phone's battery life. And these are all things, that's the value add of Forge. That's why you should use a platform rather than just the media stack. So why is all of this interesting? Well, it's really interesting because now anyone can add these communication features into their apps. We have customers who are using Forge to add these communications into existing apps, and they're also using Forge to create new apps. And both of these are valid use cases. Think of, a banking application where banks already have apps, and now they want to add the ability for their customers, perhaps select key customers, to call in using the app. So this is the kind of thing that Forge can enable. And it's really easy to add audio, video, SMS, IM to any website or app with Forge. That's the point of it. That's what we do. So we have the iPhone or iOS native libraries, Android native libraries, and the JavaScript libraries, which work on Chrome, Firefox, Opera, and in fact subsets of them work on IE and Safari as well, because we use WebRTC for the voice and video calls, but the messaging and the presence parts are just based on WebSockets. So we've got an up-to-date enough browser that can support WebSockets. All of that's supported too. So just as a quick summary of the features that are in there, if you were using Forge, the things you can do today is you can create these calls, media sessions with WebRTC, and over and above just a person-to-person call, we support call, hold, and transfer. We have the ability to fall back to SIP, so that makes it very easy for somebody who's using Forge. If they want to have a Forge-to-Forge call, that's fine, but perhaps they want to call someone out on the PSTN, that's okay too. We can set up a SIP trunk and we can have your calls come out there. We have audio and video. It's Opus and VP8, unsurprisingly, for WebRTC. For authentication, we basically tell people use OAuth 2 or use a simple REST-based authentication mechanism. What does that mean? Well, it means from the security point of view, we don't actually have your users or credentials in our network. Those usernames, those credentials, passwords, everything, we don't know them. They're not stored in our network anywhere. You don't have to trust us. What gets stored in our network, in our logs, is the fact that user A called user B, but who user A and user B are, we don't know, and we don't know their passwords. So Forge is a secure platform. It allows you to write apps. If you're concerned about security, you can write your app on there and trust the fact that depending on the features you use, there won't be any personal data held by us. So as discussed several times already, we support WebRTC. We have support for Apple and Google push notifications. In our messaging platform, it's very feature-rich. You can do broadcast messaging, you can do group messaging. You can do IP voice calls, person-to-person calls. We can record those calls. We can also record messaging streams. So if you want to do an application where an audit trail is required, that's fine. We have network recording. And when we do network recording, that means voice calls, video calls, presence updates even, and messaging. Basically, when you turn on recording, all of your communications recorded. Group chat, we have SMS fallback, you can do file transfer. It's a very rich platform, and as a result, we're really excited to see what people will do with it at TADHack. So if anybody does want to use this, that's great. We really encourage you to do so, and you can sign up for an account by going to developers.forge.acision.com. On that website, you'll find a simple sign-up form. I think there's about 6 or 7 boxes to fill in. All of the API documentation is there. So, what I encourage anyone who's thinking about using Forge to go and sign up today, have a look at the documentation. In fact, you don't even need to sign up to look at the documentation, but certainly look at the documentation and please sign up today. And if you've got any questions, you can send them through before the event. We'll start answering them right away if anybody has any concerns or queries. The documentation is all available online. You just go to https://forge.acision.com/docs, and we have separate docs for Android, iOS, and JavaScript. The reason is that this API documentation is generated off the code. So for Android, we present it as JavaDoc. For iOS, we present the documentation in the way that you would expect to be done for our iOS, using the same stuff that Apple uses to generate their docs. And for the web, the docs are in JSDoc format. So hopefully this means they should be very easy for you to pick up and read and navigate, because whichever platform you're used to using, that's the format we've done the docs in. You can also download the SDK. It's free to download. It's a 90-day trial, so you can just go on there, you can download it, you can use it for 90 days. There's no charge, so have a look at it, evaluate it before TADHacks even, and have a go. And that's a very quick run through. So I'd like to thank you if anyone has made it to the end. But if there are any questions, if when you go and look at this, the documentation, if there's any questions, or if you perhaps want us to set up a SIP trunk for you in advance of the event for your hack, please just send an email to forge.support@acision.com, and we'll do what we can to help you.
Excellent. That was great, Peter. A great summary of the resources, and definitely recommend spending the time, having a look through them, and chatting with the guys. I mean, part of TADHack is just getting people together, doing some networking. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the hacks generated on Forge by Acision from around the world. So we'll sign off now, and we'll be updating the weblog with both this presentation and the slides as well. So hopefully see you soon at TADHack at some location around the world, and also to mention that we'll have a meetup running in Singapore on the 2nd of June, where again we'll be running through some of these resources. So hopefully we might even see you in Singapore as well. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.